Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Much of southern BC is blanketed with heat warnings right now. Advisories are up from the Fraser Canyon and parts of the Okanagan, all across the lower mainland down to Vancouver Island. How do you stay cool and safe in the heat? And in our second half hour, homelessness continues to grow across parts of our province and country. And a new survey suggests Canadians are less hopeful we will find a solution. What do you think ought to happen? My name is Dan Burritt. I'm in for Michelle Elliott for the next 2 weeks. Welcome to BC Today. And you can call us now on our top story. How are you handling the heat and staying safe amid heat warnings across southern BC? What is your experience with living or working in the heat and sun? Give us a call now. 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733 is our number in Metro Vancouver. You can email us bctoday@cbc.ca. Send us a message on TikTok at CBC British Columbia. And if you're in your car or on your cell, give us a call at pound 690 on your cell. Please be hands-free or pulled over. Before we get to our top story, we want to go to Vancouver International Airport now, where Air Canada flight attendants have been holding what they call information pickets. The Air Canada component of the Canadian Union of Public Employees received a strong strike mandate from its membership after a vote that closed last week with 99.7% in favor of job action. They're pushing for better wages, among other things. The CBC's Pinki Wong has been out at YVR today and joins us now. Pinki, thanks for being with us. What's been happening out there?
Yeah, Dan, so earlier today, this morning, hundreds of flight attendants with Air Canada, with the union, were outside picketing. As you said, they were holding signs saying unpaid equals unfair, and they also said poverty wages is un-Canadian. This is what they have been talking about for the past week, because they have been fighting that they should have their wages increased and they should get what they should get paid when they're working, because the union says flight attendants are often not paid for some of the works they do, like when they're boarding passengers or when they're deplaning them. And the union said that was not a strike action, but an opportunity to raise awareness among Canadians about the ongoing issues when it comes to their working conditions. And then this is one of 4 demonstrations across Canada today at major airports. The other ones are in Toronto, in Montreal, and in Calgary. And QP also told us that this mobilization aims to remind the public that flight attendants are crucial when it comes to flight safety, and they should be compensated fairly. Here's the union representatives.
Safety, medical, anytime we're doing our briefings, we are unpaid. We are not paid until the wheels push back. Until that point, we could be on there for hours, assisting passengers, medicals. None of that is paid. It is not until the wheel pushes back and then when it breaks, and that is the only time in which we are paid. We have had enough. We have waited 10 years to have a difference made. We cannot continue on like this.
And Air Canada says, Dan, today they said these demonstrations are common when it comes to negotiation process, and they respect the flight attendants' right to express themselves, but they are saying travelers should not be affected today.
Now, speaking of travelers, Pinki, you've been speaking with passengers coming to and from YVR. What do they say about what the Air Canada flight attendants are doing?
Yeah, so then some travelers I talked to are aware of the possible strike that would happen. Some are not really sure that is happening, but most of the people that I talked to are actually in support of the flight attendants' action. They're saying that they're shocked to know they're actually not paid for some of the tasks that they do. Take a listen.
Nothing I can do about it. I'm a big union guy, so if they do strike, I will 100% not cross that picket line. When that happens, I'm actually not flying Air Canada today, so that's good.
I think in general around the world people are getting underpaid and people are trying to cut costs to make more profit, and sometimes it goes at the risk of improving or decreasing quality, which is the main issue. I think for us as passengers it's nice to have a good quality of care, but it's being taken away from us because at the same time companies are trying to make more profit, and I think that's a balance that's very difficult to strike.
So right now we know that both the union and Air Canada are still at the bargaining table, and they have been in talks since last Friday. And we know that the union says the earliest they could issue a 72-hour strike notice then is this Wednesday. So a possible strike, the earliest that could happen would be this Saturday.
The CBC's Pinki Wong joining us live from YVR. Pinki, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is 12:10. You are listening and watching BC Today. Well, in a few moments, we're going to talk about heat warnings across BC this week and ways to avoid any health hazards that might come along with that. One of those hazards, though, when you're out in the sun, is melanoma, the most common type of skin cancer. If you're on the Lower Mainland, Melanoma Canada is providing a mobile clinic that provides free skin checks from certified dermatologists. Phelan Katz, Melanoma Canada's CEO, told the Early Edition Stephen Quinn about what they're calling the Mole Mobile and the warning signs of skin cancer.
Recent studies have shown that we are not wearing sunscreen the way we should. We're not protecting ourselves. It's, regardless of age, but young people especially have been very subject to a lot of the misinformation that's been going around on social media about sunscreen. So for melanoma, we like to talk about the A, B, C, D, E's of melanoma. So A stands for asymmetry. So if you look at your moles and one looks asymmetrical, so it's not a perfect circle, doesn't fold in half perfectly, could be a sign. B is for border. So if it's a bleeding, fuzzy or hazy border, jagged border. C is for color. So if it's very, very dark or if it's got multiple colors in it when you look at it. So the browns, the blacks, the reds, the blues. Something you should potentially show to your dermatologist. D is for diameter, so typically larger than the size of a pencil eraser. And E is for evolution. So a mole that changes over time, it could crust and bleed, but that's not necessarily a sign, but something that grows or changes in shape or texture. Definitely something you want to bring to your doctor or dermatologist.
Much of southern BC is now under heat warnings. That includes Metro Vancouver and the South Coast, all the way up into parts of the BC interior. Environment Canada says temperatures are expected to reach as high as 35 degrees Celsius in some regions, and there is some humidity as well. Officials are urging you to prepare for hot weather and advise facilities that can offer some relief for people who are more vulnerable. You can call us now with your experiences dealing with heat. It's pound 690 on your cell phone, or call 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca or leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Before we get to your calls, we're going to head to West Vancouver, where we find the CBC's Chad Pawson to give us the latest on the heat advisories. Chad, tell us where you are specifically and what you're up to.
Yeah, Dan, I'm at Ambleside Beach here in West Vancouver, and I'll tell you something, the wind is really coming in nice off the water here, so this is one of the places where you want to be today. Of course, as you just heard, want to be wearing your sunscreen today, but the breeze is very cool here, or cooling, and of course we're going to see temperatures hit up around the 30s and above in parts of Metro Vancouver. So many people here for the day, enjoying that breeze, getting in the water. We were also up in Howe Sound a little earlier. We've been talking to people, up and down the Sea to Sky Highway just about how they're dealing with the heat and what they think of the heat. We're up at Porto Cove, Provincial Park, up that 99. A lot of people putting their kayaks in the water there, people going scuba diving, people just floating in the water looking for ways to stay cool. Also a lot of tourists that way, some of which are really happy actually about how hot it's getting because they want to be out in the sun enjoying this part of the province and all it has to offer. So yes, there are heat warnings across much of the province, but people also wanting to enjoy summer and being out there in a safe way, but also trying to find ways to be cool.
Yeah. And you're a smart man because you're wearing a hat. For those of you who are watching, you gotta cover up. As we heard from the folks who are running the melanoma skin clinics, do we have any sense of how long this heat is going to last, Chad?
Yeah, so I think that's a big part of it, Dan, is that some of these heat warnings are in place today, perhaps tomorrow, but as we get to the end of the week, we actually have rain in the forecast for our region in particular, rain on Friday and Saturday. So this heat wave might be short-lived, but here's the problem, Dan, is that in some of our cities, city like Vancouver, which could get very hot today, our inside spaces could really heat up. and that heat gets stuck inside. Not a lot of people have air conditioning or proper airflow to really take these hot days. So that's the big concern, is that we may only have a couple of days of this, but do temperatures inside get to the point where people aren't able to find relief? And then how do they cool their homes down? So officials really reminding people to check those heat weather warnings, heed the advice there, check in on neighbors, making sure that more vulnerable people, elderly, people with health concerns, people that might suffer more in this heat are doing all right with it, and that they're drinking water and they're finding ways to find relief from the heat, whether that's going to a community center or a mall, someplace that has air conditioning. But you know, here at the beach today, it's a beautiful day. The sun is out. The breeze, as I say, is blowing. So this is a great spot for people to come down to and try to enjoy the hot side of this before we get into rain later in the week. And then what are going to be lower high temperatures around these parts, you know, low 21s, and overnight temperatures dropping below 15. So, you know, is that our summer coming to an end, Dan? So the people I'm talking to today saying, hey, we're going to try and enjoy the summer weather while it lasts. All
right. The CBC's Chad Pawson joining us from Ambleside Beach in West Vancouver. Stay safe and cool, Chad. We appreciate you joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, speaking of officials, let's go to an expert who can tell us about how to keep yourself cool and safe in this heat. Dr. Carolyn Wonneck is a medical health officer with Fraser Health and joins us now. Doctor, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on air.
Remind us, first of all, what are some of the major dangers when it comes to excessive heat and sun in our region?
Yeah, so there are kind of is a bit of a spectrum in terms of the illness with heat. So you can have things like heat exhaustion, where you start getting some headaches, lots of sweating, cramps, fatigue. But with increase in body temperature and prolonged exposure to heat, you can also start to get into really dangerous symptoms and ultimately lead to heat stroke, which can be things like severe nausea, vomiting, loss of coordination, decreased or loss of consciousness. And these signs of heat stroke can be quite dangerous.
I want to follow up on that. We want to get to some calls right now. Ellie is joining us from Vancouver. Ellie, hello. How are you handling the heat?
Hey, Dan. It's nice to hear you. I just want to say that my wife and I are big fans of you and Darius's dynamic, so it's nice to hear you.
Thank you.
I'm dealing with the heat okay. I just wanted to say I want to encourage any citizens of Vancouver to water the street trees, water any trees on your property, because we need these trees in the decades to come. The shade is really essential. And if you go down a street that has mature horse chestnut trees, the temperature is like 10 degrees cooler. So it might not seem like it's an immediate solution, but we need these street trees in the years to come. And it looks like a lot of young trees in Vancouver. The city has good intentions, but they're not being kept up with, and they're cracking and they're falling and they're breaking apart and losing leaves. So people of Vancouver, please take care of the trees. It's a long-term solution. Thank you.
Ellie, thank you, and thanks for watching, and we appreciate that. Dr. Wonneck, we've heard about the importance of city and region canopies, and the fact that in some regions, particularly the downtown east side of Vancouver, all of that concrete acts as a real heat sink, and there's not a lot of cover, particularly for people who are more vulnerable, correct?
Yeah, so definitely for those who may not have a lot of cover, who may not be able to access more air-conditioned or cooler spaces, can be definitely more at risk for some heat-related illness.
Go to Jesse now in Chilliwack. Jesse, you work outside. How are you handling it?
We just drink a lot of water, keep a T-shirt on, try and keep the sun off your neck. Mm-hmm. But yeah, typically, occasionally we'll see sunstroke on younger workers who aren't used to the conditions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just keep a cooler full of drinks out for the guys, close at hand, and we get it done. There's a whole bunch of construction workers out here who aren't taking a day off today.
I was going to say there's always work to be done, particularly on projects small and large. Jesse, if I can ask you, for the companies that you've worked for, how are the managers and the companies doing when it comes to making sure that there are safety measures in place, whether it's the water, whether it's the shade, for you and the other workers?
Typically, like, I'm an employer, so typically when I have conditions like this, mm-hmm. whether it's extreme heat or extreme cold, I'll do a little toolbox in the morning, just letting guys know what the conditions are, and I give them a little bit more leniency if they need to take a break or if they need to go warm up. But no, we're out here. We're mm-hmm. going.
Yeah.
No breaks.
All right, Jesse, we appreciate your time and your work. Thanks very much. Dr. Wonneck, back to you. We know WorkSafe has sent out guidelines for employers because they do have a responsibility to make sure that their staff are safe, be it indoors and outdoors. And we know those jobs that get very hot. If anybody's worked in a kitchen, it can be roasting. And if you're outside, very difficult as well. How important is that both employers and employees are up to date on keeping cool?
Definitely quite important. As you mentioned, people who work in really hot environments can be at risk for heat-related illness. And so some of what that gentleman was talking about, ensuring people are drinking lots of water, is really important. And people really should be aware of their symptoms. And if they're starting to feel unwell, it's definitely a sign that maybe they should take a break and monitor and make sure that they get cool.
Mm-hmm. Forgive me if you mentioned a few of these before, but for other people who may not be feeling the effects of heat and sun, what signs should they watch out for in others when it comes to potential heat and sun problems?
So for watching in on your vulnerable friends and family, so kind of the earlier signs, as I mentioned, nausea, some fatigue, lots of sweating, dark urine are some signs. But when they start to get really, really sick, things like loss or change in consciousness, like lack of coordination, severe nausea and vomiting, those are quite serious, and those need urgent medical attention.
And those are, when you've hit that point, that's the time to call 911?
Mm-hmm. Yes, when you have those kind of later symptoms, yes.
Okay. Let's go to Liz in Victoria. Liz, you have a tip for us to stay cool. What is it?
Oh, well, I love the idea of putting your feet in cool water, and that's something that's helped me in the past. But the main reason I wanted to call in is I think this is a time when we really need to think about our collective responsibilities to keep everyone safe. And I think freedom of movement has to be a human right. We have to think of it that way. I'm a member of the Victoria Transit Riders Union, and we're advocating for the elimination of transit fares. And I think this is such a good example of why we need that. If someone is in a hot apartment, they're in that lower income bracket, maybe they're older, they're in that risk category, we must have that person making an easy choice to go get to a cooling center. And it's not an easy choice. Transit there and back in Victoria now is $6. This might sound weird to some people, but there are so many people who don't have the $6. Mm-hmm. We have to make it easy for people to get to a cooler place. This is not an individual responsibility.
Liz, appreciate your call. If I can just keep you on the line for just a moment. Have you had any response from the Victoria, from your organization, perhaps to the city or to the region?
Oh, yes. Well, we've been going around to municipalities advocating for the elimination of transit fares. The Union of BC Municipalities actually asked the province this year officially to eliminate fares for youth. And we're hoping that in the next round, they'll hopefully do it for seniors. And those are the two first steps we want to see. And then we want to see transit fares eliminated for everyone so people can move around and have their needs met. And the sad thing is, like, it doesn't actually even save money to keep people from meeting their needs. It's not actually efficient. All those 911 calls, all of those hospitalizations, and all of the fallout of having people not be able to move around. And this is a perfect example of a time that they need to be able to do that. It's just a smarter way to fund transit. Transit's currently only funded in a very small proportion of the funding comes from fares anyway. It's not efficient. It's not just. I want people to make an easy choice to go where they need to go to be safe.
All right. Liz, appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Dr. Wonneck, picking up on Liz's suggestion about a feet in a bowl of cold water, if you're feeling a bit warm, it's not to the stage where you think you need to call 911 for yourself or somebody else. What are some of those techniques you can do to keep cool at home?
I mean, I think one of the more obvious ones, if people have access to air conditioners, they should turn those on. Otherwise, opening windows later on, kind of in the evening, can kind of let that cool air in. Sometimes splashing water on yourself can help as well. Avoiding going outside between the really hot times a day, which is like 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you are unable to if your temperatures are getting pretty hot at home, it is a good idea to try and find a cooler space to go to. Mm-hmm.
Now, for those who perhaps don't have access to air conditioning, are there any other general tips that you would recommend?
So other ways to stay cool besides finding another place. So we generally don't recommend fans as an alternative to air conditioner. Fans just move air around. So if the air is really hot in your home, fans weren't actually going to cool it. Fans might help if you kind of open your windows later at night when the temperatures have cooled. You can move the air in. That's another strategy. But closing the windows and the blinds in the really hot times of the day to keep that sun out might help a little bit. Or if it's breezy, to try and get that air in.
We have heard that before of closing windows to make sure that you don't have a bunch of sun streaming in. I believe we have another call. Let's go to Warren, who's in Richmond. Warren, what are you doing to stay cool?
Well, relying on my air conditioner. Fortunately, in this building, we're allowed to have them if we have the means to do so. It's sad that there's so many people that are in buildings where the landlord forbids them from having an air conditioner.
And so, keep going.
Yeah, I feel fortunate that I'm in BC Housing, whereby in this building at least, they're putting in a full heat pump system, which will be up and running fully by the end of the year, apparently.
All right, Warren, we appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Glad that you're staying cool. Dr. Wonneck, heat pumps as well. They're not available for everybody, similar to air conditioning, but also a good strategy for people who want to stay cool.
Yeah, heat pumps can be a good strategy for people to keep cool if they are available for people.
I know you're a medical doctor. Could I ask you a question around animals? We know a lot of people have pets. Are there some warning signs that you would give for people when their animal is just maybe feeling the heat a bit too much?
Goodness, I'm not sure if I'm well equipped to answer that. I would probably direct you to a veterinarian for some of those signs.
Okay. Just thought I would ask. Thanks for clarifying. Keith is on the line. Keith from Vancouver. Keith, go ahead. How are you beating the heat?
Yeah, one thing that I found is incredible. I heard about it, years ago. It's nothing new, but I was really astonished how quickly it worked. Was simply some ice wrapped around your wrists or a cool towel and your ankles. I guess it has to do with blood flow and cardiovascular, but it's really kind of wild how quickly you can cool down just with some ice wrapped around your wrists and that kind of thing. And alcohol is probably not recommended, but I do have a recipe for a really good beer cocktail that I would recommend. But it's very easy. But yeah, just stay in the shade. But the cooling down of the wrists and the ankles is pretty wild how quickly you cool down.
All right, Keith, appreciate that tip. And Doctor, just to wrap up with you, Dr. Wonneck, we also have heard drinking plenty of fluids. Alcohol not recommended in the higher heat, is it?
No, alcohol is definitely not recommended in high heat. It can dehydrate you.
Okay.
But lots of fluids are other fluids are definitely encouraged.
All right. We appreciate your time and expertise, Dr. Carolyn Wonneck, the Medical Health Officer with Fraser Health. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for your calls and emails, and I'll try and read a few more of those emails a little later. This is BC Today on CBC. I'm Dan Burritt, in for Michelle Elliott. We're on Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming on our website, cbc.ca/BC, and on YouTube at CBC Vancouver and the CBC News app. Yes, we're everywhere. Coming up in our next half hour, as homelessness continues to grow in parts of BC and this country, a new poll suggests Canadians are less optimistic about an eventual solution. We'll speak with the pollster and those on the ground helping people without homes, and we'll take your calls and emails. That's after this news update with Tarnjeet Parmar.
Good afternoon. 2 wildfires that forced people from their homes in BC are now being held. Evacuation orders for 25 homes near the Daves Creek wildfire east of Kelowna have been rescinded, while 3 homes remain on alert. And the Wesley Ridge wildfire on Vancouver Island is also classified as held. 37 households remain on evacuation order due to that fire, and 610 households are on evacuation alert. Heat warnings across parts of southern BC and Vancouver Vancouver Island over the weekend have now been expanded to Metro Vancouver. Environment Canada says a heat warning is active for both Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley until at least Wednesday, with temperatures possibly reaching 33 degrees and not expected to drop below 17 degrees overnight. People are being told to stay indoors, stay hydrated, and watch out for signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. And dozens of Air Canada flight attendants are staging a demonstration at Vancouver International Airport. Their union calls this a day of action, with similar demonstrations at several airports across this country. Workers are calling for better wages and highlighting unpaid labor that flight attendants put in when planes are not in the air. Air Canada says demonstrations today will not affect operations at the airport. Those are your news headlines. For more information, you can go to the website anytime. cbc.ca/BC.
Thank you very much, Tarnjeet Parmar at the CBC Vancouver News Desk. There are signs the rental market is cooling in parts of Metro Vancouver. A new report from rentals.ca shows the average asking rent has fallen by 10% in the last year. But are renters feeling any relief? Here's what tenants in Vancouver's West End told us.
10% of what did we start with? That number that we started with has taken decades to get to a point where it's unaffordable for anybody. If you're a young person who has a love and you want children, you want to build a family, how could you afford to live down here?
Have you noticed that rents are going down in Vancouver?
Not at all. Not at all. If anything, it's just a bunch of people that are saying it's going down. But who is it going down for, though? I get a rent increase up to 4% and a wage increase up to 1%. Make that make sense.
We're not noticing it anywhere, at least not the people I know. You can ask other people around, but I don't think it's come down at all. I mean, we see lots of people overnight that are sleeping in the parks and stuff, just trying to find their housing. Many people during COVID lost their jobs, no money, end up homeless. And what are we doing about that, right? We need to remember that people are people, right? And let's start supporting our programs to actually get people off the street.
A new poll by Research Co. is showing Canadians have become less optimistic about an eventual solution to homelessness in this country. We're asking you, how do you feel about the efforts to solve homelessness? What solutions do you see to curb homelessness in BC and perhaps beyond? Give us a call now, 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733 is our number in Metro Vancouver. You can email us, bctoday@cbc.ca, or leave us a comment on our TikTok Live. You can also call us on your cell, pound 690. Again, please be hands-free or pulled over if you are driving. Joining us now is Mario Canseco. He is president of Research Co., and he's the one that did this survey. Mario, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Dan. Great to be here with you.
Can you break down some of the results for us? When was it done? What were the demographics? Give us a picture here.
Of course, it's a general population sample, so you gotta be careful to have the right representation for all regions of the country, genders, and age groups. It's the second time that we asked the same set of questions. We were curious to see whether the needle had moved since we started asking this question back in 2024. And what we have is a significant generational divide. The numbers are down when it comes to whether Canadians believe that there's a solution to homelessness. But the way in which generations react to this is certainly eye-catching. If you're over 55, you're more likely to believe that no matter what we do, no matter what policies are in place, homelessness will not be eradicated. If you're age 35 to 54, you're sort of in the middle. But if you're 18 to 34, you believe that there's a way out of this crisis at this stage. So usually when you conduct public opinion research in Canada, you might have some gender divides, you might have some regional differences. When it comes to homelessness, it's age that defines whether you believe there's a solution or not.
And how do these latest findings compare to the survey last year?
Well, there are some changes, particularly when it comes to the solutions to the crisis. We are seeing a significantly higher support for issues that deal directly with mental health. And that is something that is quite remarkable in the sense that there's many Canadians are making that connection between homelessness and mental health. There's also a significant level of support for building housing that is temporary for those who are experiencing homelessness, but also enticing developers through incentives to build homes for those who need and can afford them. It's been consistent. We have more than 7 out of 10 Canadians who believe that this is the way out of this crisis. And it's been difficult because of all of the intricacies that you have to deal with. Federal governments working with the BC government working with municipal governments. And it's the kind of issue from a policy standpoint that takes a long time to get done. It's very simple for some politicians to say, we're going to do something about this issue. The runway on an issue like housing takes more than a decade usually.
Now, as you pointed out, younger Canadians appear more hopeful about ending homelessness than older Canadians in this poll. How do you interpret that general difference?
Well, I think one of the issues that is quite crucial here is the way in which the younger generation has become more in tune with everything related to mental health. And this isn't something that we saw 15 or 20 years ago when it was still considered a bit of a stigma, where you didn't want to say to your employer that you were having a bad day or if you were having a crisis. Now we have a generation that has grown with assistance not only from their schools, but also from their workplaces when it comes to mental health. They understand that what is happening when it comes to homelessness is related directly to mental health in most cases. And this is one of the reasons for the younger generation to say there's a way out of this. We just need to help them first.
I want to bring in an advocate who's now working in the downtown east side on the front line, certainly. Nicole Mucci with the Union Gospel Mission in Vancouver. Nicole, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
First of all, what do you make of what you're hearing from this poll that Mario did?
You know, I think it is kind of in line with some of the questions that even our donor base or our other groups who we connect with regularly ask us, like churches or schools, because there is sometimes a sense of growing hopelessness or a sense of confusion around what a real solution could look like. And I also think that knowing the younger generation is still feeling full of hope, still understands that there are opportunities and ways that we can all work together and create policy that really, really impacts those who are struggling the most is a good sign.
That being said, I mean, we just saw and heard from some of the stories that we've been covering. One of our reporters went down with your mobile, if we could call it, almost like a water unit, making sure that people on the downtown east side are taken care of. Building housing is one thing, but making sure that somebody doesn't die in the heat is another. It really is. It's quite a contrast, isn't it? From immediate needs to getting somebody into shelter.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And the reality is that there are organizations who have what we call at UGM a continuum of care, which means that we cannot necessarily address someone's really, really long-term needs and get them to that point until those most acute needs are addressed first. And so our outreach team really focuses on having that ability to connect with people exactly where they're at, whether that's ensuring that they're not getting heat stroke in this kind of weather, letting them know where they can go to cool down, inviting them to stay in our shelter, and slowly starting to build and develop a lasting relationship in order to be able to get to a point where we can say, okay, are you struggling with your mental health? Do you have addiction issues? Is this a matter of you being a senior who has perhaps been aged out and unable to afford your rent, which is something we're seeing more and more of in our shelter. More than a third of shelter users at UGM right now are considered seniors. And so even the demographic of people experiencing homelessness is changing, which means that when we look at what a solution could be, we might need to actually adjust what we're looking for.
Mario, stay on the line with us, and Nicole is going to stay in studio. Let's go to Dale, who's joining us from Dawson Creek. Dale, you have a unique perspective on this. Would you share it with us, please?
Absolutely. I ran the men's shelter. Well, first of all, I've been in recovery 25 years. And I was one of those persons that traveled all across and was homeless and reached out and stuff along that lines. And until I worked the acute issue, which is within oneself, and dealing with that, the trauma or pain, whatever I was carrying, did anything ever get better? So when I gave back and reached out and wanted to help people out there, I ran the men's shelter from 2013 to 2020 in Dawson Creek. And I phoned down to BC Housing and said, we're going to put zero tolerance on alcohol and drugs while you're here, not judging their alcohol or drug use. And 50% of them, I had a gun pulled on me, I had knives pulled on me. They felt that they were entitled to do what they wanted to do. But the ones that did stay, they all told me, they said, Dale, we hated you the first couple of days. But after that, we loved you because they were safe in there. They were encouraged. They were networked within the community for their mental health or addiction issues. And 50% of them found work.
50%?
Now, 50%. I wrote it down myself when they were coming through. I'll give you one example. 3 guys, no names, came out from working on the oil and gas. They all blew 10 grand on their coke and crack, came in, they were down and out. They sat there for 3 days, and they all were encouraged to go back. And I did all the cooking. I fed them like kings, encouraged them. All 3 of them found work after. And they gave me a beautiful picture thanking me. And I went, it's not about the housing. You could have put me in any housing you wanted when I was in my addiction. Wouldn't have mattered. Because I had to deal with the issue within myself before anything changed. And that's where we need to encourage people on that recovery without, I'm not here to judge you, man. I'm here to encourage you, male or female, that you are worthy, man. You are worth something. And when you look at this world out here today, the hardest part I've had in my recovery is dealing with the so-called normal world. It's not real, man. Like, you know what? One good encouraging thing is we're finally getting a treatment center built up here, and it's taken 10 years to get it going up here in the north because we've either had to go out of town or Grand Prairie for detox or Prince George, and finally 10 years to get it up and going, a 4-phase program, which I believe, including in the mental health and addiction, because they're all tied together now, is reaching out to people and encouraging them there that they're worth something, man. Like when you turn on the news, listen to the radio, you hear this, you're on your phone, it's 95% negativity, man. This one's being blown up, this person's dying, this person's shooting, the racist, everything that's going on. And so there's no hope. Now you combine that with rents that are ridiculous, right out of this world, and I'm a senior, and I'm like, hey, man, so how do you go forward? If you have strength within yourself, and you get to know who you are, and you give back, that's a tremendous gift. And this is what I believe people out on the streets, wherever they're at, are hurting. And they're shame. Like for me, it was shame and guilt.
Yeah.
I didn't want, like, what would people think of me if I told them this? Huh? And it's like, once you get that out and you deal with it, and the people that are out there hurting relate to that.
Dale, I really appreciate your call. Dale, forgive me. Lovely. We really appreciate your time and really your service for setting up that men's shelter. We're jumping into some more calls now. Let's go to Jan in Langford. Jan, what's your experience with this?
Okay, I was just explaining to your producer that in 2020, 62 of us at Fairfield Hotel, it's an SRO, that's a single-room occupancy hotel. And it was a gorgeous hotel, by the way. It was built in 1908. Absolutely gorgeous heritage. And we were rent-evicted it took them 4.5 years, and the Victoria City Hall, they allowed the permits. I was working with a number of advocates, including TAPS. And so finally, 62 of us, seniors and persons with disabilities, so whether it's mental health or physical health, and I just want to add that addictions are not necessarily this mental or psychic pain. It can be physical. I've had roofer friends who've fallen off roofs, had their safety gear on, wrenched their backs, and got hooked on Percocets because there's so much pain. So the addictions are based on pain, and whether it's emotional or psychic or or physical. But so I wanted to get back to the BC Housing Direct Operators and where the subsidies are coming from. These direct operators, like Pacifica Housing here in Victoria, they really aren't accountable to the taxpayers, and that's the government's job. And I really feel that BC Housing needs to, instead of giving millions of dollars to direct operators like Pacifica Housing here in Victoria, I think that the subsidy should go directly to the individual so that they can use the money directly, like SAFER. Like I'm 63, so I qualify for SAFER, but I don't use it because I'm in a subsidized housing. Even though we got rent-evicted, most of us got relocated because of the assistance of a legal advocacy group called TAPS here in Victoria. Yep. So I really feel that the subsidies should be going to the people who need it, and then they can engage market accommodations.
Do you think, Jan, if I can ask, do you think they would have more luck doing it as an individual rather than perhaps having the support of an agency like BC Housing?
Well, you can still have BC Housing, but then the BC Housing would then subsidize, rather than subsidizing large direct operators, they call them direct operators, like Pacifica Housing, and there's others. I think in Vancouver it's called, starts with A, I can't remember what it's called. But at any rate, I think it would be better to give it to the individual who then holds whatever landlord they engage with, they hold that landlord responsible under the Residential Tenancy Act.
Yeah. Jan, I'm going to jump.
And the model I'm using is exactly like SAFER, but most people don't qualify because they're not 60.
Okay. Jan, appreciate your call. I thank you very much. Nicole Mucci from UGM, I saw you nodding along a little bit there from what Jan had to say. Interesting idea around direct subsidy to those who are dealing with that. Do you think that's a model that might work for some of the people that you serve?
I think that one of the things I was hearing the most from both callers actually is a need for dignity in the way that services are provided and ensuring that there isn't a dehumanization within the service industry and within the opportunity to try to find efficiencies or to try to create systems is to not lose the humanity within it. So perhaps there are individuals who would be better served with opportunities to have autonomy within their housing. But I also think that the reality is we have a much broader systemic issue that we have to look at when we think about housing affordability, increasing numbers of elderly losing their housing, when we look at the fact that the rent keeps going up no matter what. So even if you are being provided a subsidy or a certain amount of money, you might still not be able to afford the rent as it stands. And so one of the things that we at UGM are pondering or are curious about when we look at these results from the survey around dissatisfaction is, are people actually feeling more hopeless that homelessness is never going to end, or are they feeling frustrated by perhaps the pacing around change and by perhaps the way in which the system has been built? And is there an opportunity for service providers, for individuals who have lived through this, for the government to come together and actually look systemically at what we could do better?
All right. Mario Canseco, and I'm going to jump back to you. We've gone from a very granular level on the street to those perhaps on a bigger scale when it comes to your surveys. Where do you think policymakers can take this kind of data and use it, if we could use that phrase?
Well, I think one of the issues that we tested is how are governments dealing with this? And the numbers didn't move from 2024 to 2025. And our expectation was, there's a lot of goodwill around Mark Carney in the early stages of his tenure. Maybe the numbers will be better than what we saw when Justin Trudeau was in charge of the federal government. And the answer is no. There's a significant level of dissatisfaction with how provincial governments, municipal governments, and the federal government has been dealing with this issue. We've seen housing as an issue climbing the charts when it comes to the number one issue for Canadians. It's taken a backseat to Canada-U.S. relations after Donald Trump took office in the United States, but it's still number two. It's higher than healthcare. It's higher than the economy and jobs. It's higher than immigration. It's higher than the environment. So it's an issue that is going to continue to be there. It started in the Lower Mainland and to a lesser extent in the Greater Toronto area. But now we have people in the Maritimes, people in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, people in Alberta who say their number one issue right now is housing.
All right. Owen is joining us from Vancouver. Owen, what do you make of the concerns around homelessness not ending in Canada?
I think it's such a valuable conversation that we've been having over the last couple of weeks, particularly when we look as, people who live in Vancouver and citizens and with neighbors who we realize are 5,200 individuals that are unhoused in our communities. One of the things I just wanted to add here is listening to the conversation is that we have this notion that the support services ought to somehow be absent-based, that we should be excluding individuals who, by virtue of, quite frankly, pain management, happen to be consuming a substance that we would all use. If we choose to walk down that pathway, we then don't, as a society, get to complain about homeless encampments. We don't then, as a society, get to complain about street homelessness. We have 5,200 individuals who are surviving at their best on the street. All of us with occupied privilege, that like myself included, I sleep indoors in bed every day. We don't look at disdain at the population who are struggling. We look with care and we integrate them into our services. If the future evolution of support services care exclusively occupies a place where abstinence is the sole domain, whereby you can access care, we are going to just be having this conversation 3 years from now, 5 years from now, a decade, 2 decades out. And I just want to add that discussion point into the conversation. Simultaneously, I think we should probably spend some time talking about, does anybody listening, do we all know what somebody who's on social assistance gets for rent? It's $500 a month. If you live in Vancouver, and anyone calling into this show can tell me what I can rent for $500 a month, I'll happily take it and sublet my home.
Yeah.
So I just think we have to add some nuance into the conversation and just focus on the fact that, these are complex medical, social problems. And in the complexity, we can offer care and we can offer meaningful intervention points. But it does require a nuanced conversation.
Oh, and really appreciate your call. Thank you. I saw Nicole nodding along. Nicole, we've certainly there are operators who work with abstinence-based programs, and there are others who don't. What are your experiences with them?
Well, the reality is that Owen is right. We need to have a spectrum and an opportunity of entry point for many individuals on many different journeys, because we are all different people and we all have different needs. What might work for somebody coming to UGM might not work for somebody who would be better suited to attend a different recovery facility, for example, or that kind of thing. But what I do really, really agree with Owen in the sense that hope lives in action. And that's what I am hearing in some of the survey results. It's what I've heard from some of these individuals who are coming up with these great ideas, who are calling in, who have these ideas of how we can actually serve those who are struggling the most. And that is what we do every day at UGM too, is we have hope in action, whether it's on the street, providing, cold water and sunscreen, or in a boardroom or in a city council chamber or advocating on the radio. There is an opportunity to actually find space in which we can have these conversations, acknowledge the nuance, and recognize that if we continue to work together and address the changes as they evolve, we will keep seeing transformations. And the thing is we get to see transformations happen every day at UGM. We've seen thousands of people exit homelessness. And so I believe in hope. I think that it is something that can happen.
And remind us quickly, the programs that you offer when it comes to recovery, are they abstinence-based?
They are. We actually have a variety of programming. So we have got, and when we look at recovery, we actually look at it as like a full continuum. So, really even entering into a shelter for a couple of nights could be part of the start of your recovery journey. We have a men's program that is largely abstinence-based or abstinence-focused. However, it is not at a point where we would be like, hey, you know what, if this is not the journey for you, we're not just going to end the conversation or close the book. We're actually going to look for a recovery program that makes the most sense. We also have multiple women's recovery facilities, one in Victoria, we have one in Langley, one in Mission, one in Vancouver. And they actually have a variety of slightly different programming adjusted to fit the needs of the women that we're serving, including women with infant children.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. Let's go to Carol in Vancouver. Carol, what is your experience? Hello, Carol, you're on. Go ahead. Hello, Carol. Can you hear us? Sorry about that. I don't think we have Carol. I'm just going to read a couple of TikToks that we've received. One from Tessa Faye Burton, who says, profit off the luxury and regular units and give the free ones to those who need them, housing units. Private companies could fix it and use grants to build towers with a floor of subsidized housing. Ryan says, I think homelessness boils down to 4 main points: security, money, somewhere to live, and support. I think many feel unhoused, many unhoused feel stuck because they're missing one, if not all, of these things. Thank you for those comments. Let's go back to Carol. Carol, you're there?
I'm here.
Go ahead, Carol. You're on.
Well, I talked to a lot of police. I'm living down in the downtown, well, not down, below downtown east side on Alexander Street. And I had a terrible time with a certain organization here in Vancouver. I won't name them. However, I see the capitalism of bureaucracy, bureaucratization. Is that what it is?
Sure.
Huge salaries, little or no support. I've never seen supportive housing. I certainly haven't experienced. I talk to people who say there's no wraparound services. I think a lot of these organizations need to be forensically audited, and a lot of people with the huge salaries they make up above are useless. Mm-hmm. It's really terrible. And I tried to get David Eby to do a forensic audit on this particular society, and no action because, who knows?
Carol, I appreciate I appreciate your call. Is there something that would, I guess, is there something that would make a difference to you right now in your situation that could make things better?
Oh, well, I'm fine. I'm a senior. I have a fairly decent low income, and I can get by on it.
Good. Carol, so I hate to cut it off. Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Carol. I appreciate your call. Thank you. And to everybody who called and emailed and sent us TikTok messages, thank you very much. Nicole Mucci with the Union Gospel Mission, and Mario Canseco, president of Research Co. Thank you for joining us. And that's it for our show. Thank you for calling in and joining the discussion. You can always email us bctoday@cbc.ca.